What's up, YouTube Zero here, and today I have a really fun Ogerpon and Slaking deck in Pokemon TCG Pocket. In this video, I'll go over the deck build that you can see on the left-hand side of the screen. I'll talk about each of these cards individually. I'll talk about why this deck and these cards mesh so well with each other, and why you should be utilizing this deck at the end of the video. If you do enjoy this video, if you do enjoy Pokemon TCG Pocket deck builds, definitely hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a deck build. The new pack just dropped for Pokemon TCG Pocket, so I'm going to be coming out with a lot of new and exciting decks. This is one that I made prior to that deck release, but it is still a good deck. The Darkrai Sleep combination is going to be around for a little while yet, and this is one deck that utilizes it. I really wanted to make a deck with Slaking. I don't know why, I just remembered when Slaking first dropped way back when, utilizing it, it would loaf around every other time you were utilizing it. So Slaking card form in Pokemon TCG Pocket coincides with that. It's a really funny, Slaking is a really funny Pokemon in general. You hit really hard one turn and then you sleep the next turn. However, I'm utilizing Ogerpon EX to help alleviate some of that issue and combine into a deck that really works and is really fun and can compete with a lot of other decks. So first, let's talk about Slaking and why Slaking's funny, but also a pretty good card. Slaking has an attack for 3 colorless energy, Knuckle Sandwich. You hit for 150 damage, which is really good for 3 energy. You're hitting for 150 damage. You do discard an energy from Slaking. However, Slaking also has the ability Snoozing Habit. So as long as this Pokemon is in the active spot, so as long as Slaking is in the active spot, whenever you attach an energy from the energy zone, Slaking falls asleep. So you have an attack that deals a massive amount of damage, 150, for just 3 energy. However, you have to discard an energy after you attack. Every time you reapply an energy, as long as Slaking is in the active spot, Slaking is going to fall asleep. However, Teal Mask Ogerpon EX alleviates this issue. So this is, of course, a grass deck. I'm running grass energy, although there are Slaking, which is a colorless Pokemon, and Darkrai is a dark type Pokemon. But Teal Mask Ogerpon EX is awesome when paired with Slaking because of its ability. Teal Mask Ogerpon has the ability Soothing Wind. Each of your Pokemon that has energy attached recovers from all special conditions and can't be affected by any special conditions. So if Slaking is in the active spot and attacking, if you have to equip energy onto it, because you do lose an energy after you hit with that massive attack, Knuckle Sandwich, you will not fall asleep. So these two really pair well with each other because Slaking has its ability Snoozing Habit, and Teal Mask Ogerpon is going to prevent that ability from taking form. As long as Teal Mask Ogerpon is on the playing field, Slaking's ability will not kick in, so you're not going to fall asleep when you attach an energy. So you can attach for Knuckle Sandwich over and over and over again without having to worry about falling asleep as long as Teal Mask Ogerpon is on the playing field. That's awesome. 150 damage is insane for 3 energy, so it's really cool that there is a nice combination there. Teal Mask Ogerpon, with this being a grass deck, can also attack, which is cool as well if you do need Teal Mask Ogerpon to step in. And Teal Mask Ogerpon has, for just 2 grass energy, Energized Leaves, which deals 60 damage. However, if the amount of energy attached to both active Pokemon is 5 or more, the attack does 120 damage. So you have the possibility, if you have 2 or 3 energy equipped and your opponent's active Pokemon has enough difference to get up to 5 energy, then you're going to hit for 120 damage. So that's really good as well. Not only will you prevent status conditions from all of your Pokemon as long as they have energy equipped, but you can also hit for a decent amount of damage. For just 2 or 3 energy, Teal Mask Ogerpon can hit for 120, as long as your opponent's active Pokemon makes up the difference in the 5 energy, which is really cool as well. Now let's move down the line on which Pokemon are also in this deck that make it really fun as well. And I have to go in the line of Slaking. I want to talk about all of the Slaking line, how you evolve to Slaking, because they're going to come into play with Celebi. Now, Vigoroth, I have 1 Vigoroth, 1 Rare Candy. Vigoroth has Best Punch. For 2 colorless energy, hits for 90. However, you do have to flip a coin. If it's tails, the attack does nothing. But you get to flip a coin, and you have the potential of hitting for 90 for just 2 energy. That's really good, and it coincides with a Mega Pokemon in this game, Mega Lucario. For 2 energy, Mega Lucario is hitting for 90 damage. So that's really cool that you're not a Mega Pokemon. You are a non-EX Pokemon. So if you go down, you only lose 1 point. You have the potential of hitting for 90. Now, of course, it is a coin flip. It's a 50-50, but 90 damage is nothing to scoff at. So I do have a Vigoroth in this deck, again, alluding back to Celebi that I'll talk about in a second. And of course, Slakoth has Yawn for 1 colorless energy. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now asleep. So there's a reason why I absolutely love having Celebi when paired with this combination. So Celebi has the ability Time Recall. Each of your evolved Pokemon can use any attack from its previous evolutions. You do still need the necessary energy. However, if you did evolve into Slaking and you don't have a lot of energy equipped, you can have Celebi on the playing field, and you have the potential to either utilize Yawn to put your opponent's active Pokemon asleep, or you can attack with Best Punch and potentially, not necessarily because it's still a coin flip, and potentially hit for 90 damage. So if Celebi's on the playing field, you have Slaking in the active spot, and you don't have enough energy for 3 yet to hit with Knuckle Sandwich, you can potentially Yawn or hit with Best Punch. Now, the reason why I like utilizing Celebi is because it can combine with Darkrai. Of course, the setup you're looking for here is Slaking in the active spot, Celebi on the bench, Teal Mask Ogerpon on the bench, and 1 Darkrai. However, if you have 2 Darkrai, that's pretty cool as well. 2 Darkrai and a Celebi because of Darkrai's ability Bad Dreams. Bad Dreams, at the end of each turn, if your opponent's active Pokemon is asleep, you do 20 damage to that Pokemon. So you can build up energy on Slaking while you're forcing your opponent asleep, while also hitting with Darkrai's ability Bad Dreams. So Slaking's in the active spot. You don't have enough energy to attack with Knuckle Sandwich, but you can put your opponent asleep. You have a Darkrai on the bench, you're chipping for 20. You have 2 on the bench, you're chipping for 40. And if your opponent isn't able to wake up, you're chipping for 20 or 40 at the end of your opponent's turn as well. So you can deal a decent amount of damage. On top of that, you can stop your opponent dead in his or her tracks from attacking you if you can get that sleep off. Sometimes I've pulled myself back from the brink of defeat just because I was able to force my opponent asleep and they couldn't wake up. So sleep can be very deadly in this game. It is one of the best status conditions because sometimes relying on a coin flip is very difficult to do. It's a 50-50. You're asleep at the end of your turn or your opponent's asleep at the end of their turn. They can't attack. They can't retreat. They can't do anything unless they have some form of supporter card or ability that allows them to retreat. And not a lot of decks are running them. Yes, more and more decks are starting to run Pokemon Center Lady, but they have to have that card in their hand, and it might be to your benefit that they don't. So it's really cool that you can come back from the brink of defeat. Your opponent has 2 points and their Mega Pokemon in that active slot. Well, all you have to do is hit for a sleep. You start chipping away, and then you can maybe finish them off with Knuckles Sandwich. Envision this: you have your opponent's Mega Lucario in the active spot at 190 HP. They already have 2 points. You have a Celebi on the bench, you have 2 Darkrai's on the bench. You hit for Yawn, it's a guaranteed sleep. So you put your opponent's Mega Lucario asleep, that's gonna chip for 40 damage. Now, the next turn, your opponent doesn't flip for a head, so they're still asleep. It chips for another 40 damage. Well, that's 80 damage, down to 110. You can finish off your opponent with Slaking's Knuckles Sandwich. So you could have been down 2-0, but you ended up winning because of sleep. So there are a lot of benefits of sleep and combining Slaking with Celebi and Darkrai. And of course, combining it with Teal Mask Ogerpon is important because you won't fall asleep. So there are ways of combining all of these cards, and depending upon where you're at in the game, will be dependent upon which Pokemon you put on the playing field at that time. But you can come back from the brink of defeat. I have before by making my opponent's Pokemon asleep. So I absolutely love this combination. Celebi is here so we can utilize sleep even after we evolve into Slaking, so we can utilize Yawn. We have Teal Mask Ogerpon so Slaking doesn't put itself asleep. And we have Darkrai on the bench so we can deal some of that chip damage. Even if you don't have the 2 Darkrai in my previous scenario, if Mega Lucario does not flip for a heads and stays asleep, the Darkrai is going to chip for 20 at the end of your turn, 20 at the end of your opponent's turn. That's 40 damage. That drops your opponent's Mega Lucario to 150 HP. Slaking can hit for 150 damage. So you can finish off a lot of Mega Pokemon with a combination of Slaking plus Sleep. It's absolutely epic. Next, couple of basic cards in the deck. Professor's Research, you draw 2 cards. Pokeball, put a random basic Pokemon from your deck to your hand. All obvious. I do have 1 Fragrant Forest in this deck. It's going to allow me to draw the grass Pokemon from the deck a little bit easier. For those of you who don't know Fragrant Forest, once during each player's turn, that player may put a random basic grass Pokemon from their deck into their hand. This is really going to allow us to get through the deck quicker. You get Fragrant Forest onto the playing field, you can draw Celebi or one of your Teal Mask Ogerpons. This is going to allow you to either utilize Time Recall, the ability of Celebi, or make sure that your Slaking isn't putting itself asleep. So Fragrant Forest is going to be nice, so you can pull those grass Pokemon from your deck really easily. Next, Sabrina and Cyrus, 2 cards that are always very welcome in any deck. They don't need any explanation. They are very good in this deck. You can force an opponent's active Pokemon out of that active slot, or force a Pokemon into the active slot, whether it's with Sabrina or Cyrus. Ilima in this deck, for those of you who don't know, you put 1 of your colorless Pokemon that has damage on it into your hand. Ilima, 1 Ilima in this deck can save you from losing a point. So I do like Ilima in this deck because you can save yourself from losing a point. You can get Slaking back onto the battlefield after a couple of turns, and you don't have to worry about losing that point. And you can have Teal Mask Ogerpon in that active slot, dealing for potentially 120 damage while you're building up the energy on Slaking again. So it is a nice card to have, so you can potentially block your opponent from getting that point. Teal Mask Ogerpon, I already talked about it, can deal a decent amount of damage, 120. So you don't need to necessarily worry about pulling Slaking off of the battlefield. You have a very capable Pokemon dealing a lot of damage. But that's the deck. It is a very fun deck. It's a combination of the sleep decks that we saw in a lot of other gameplay. The Mega Lucario, Igglybuff Darkrai combination, the Mega Altaria Igglybuff Darkrai combination. This is a spin on those decks, not utilizing Igglybuff, but utilizing Celebi with Time Recall and of course our Slack Off that has Yawn that can put our opponent's active Pokemon to sleep. So it's a play on that deck. It's a really fun deck. I really was able to go through a lot of opponents with this deck. I actually beat a Mega Lucario deck. I defeated a Mega Sceptile deck. So this deck can absolutely compete with some of the best decks in the game and come out on top. A really fun deck. Definitely check it out and let me know in the comment section what you think of this deck. Let me know what you would put in and out of this deck to make it even better. Let me know in the comment section. I definitely want to talk about this deck more because it's a really fun deck. It's a unique deck that I've never seen anybody use, but it is a fun deck nonetheless. If there's a Pokemon you want to see a deck built around, let me know in the comments section and I will get it done. As I mentioned earlier in the video, the new packs just released, the Paradox Drive packs. And I have a lot of decks on the way for cards that dropped in that deck. So be on the lookout for those. They're coming out very shortly. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Definitely give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more Pokemon TCG Pocket content. And until next time, peace.